Well, it's a good morning from the Niners DNA team. I'm in Sydney, Australia. It's 9 a.m. on Friday morning, the 14th of October. And I've got a very special guest with us. It's Ted H from 49ers Hive and 49ers, is it Fan Nation, all 49ers from Sports Illustrated. And he is you can tell me where you are, Ted, and what time it is, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm mid-peninsula, kind of halfway between San Francisco and San Jose, not too far north of Levi's Stadium. Here it's 3 p.m. Pacific on Thursday. So TGIF to you, Pete.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I have spent a bit of time in California, thus my fandom of the 49ers. Tell me, where exactly are you? I might know where it is.
Redwood City, California.
Redwood City, I've been there. Yep. I had so my little origin story for the 49ers that I used to work in Tahoe up at North Star and Squaw as a snowboard instructor, and my girlfriend at the time, their family were season ticket holders at the Stick. And so this is back in 99, 2000. And so my love for the 49ers was almost by osmosis through that family. But it has definitely been a strong osmosis because, I've been obsessed by that team since that time. Rugby league and rugby union are big sports down here in Australia, and NFL would be my favorite sport. So, it's great to be talking to a guy who, you and I met on Twitter. We had some good interactions back and forth on a couple of things. We see eye to eye on a couple of things, maybe not so on others. But today we're going to talk about a couple of topics, and it's to do with some stuff that is quite timely for us in the San Francisco 49ers in terms of the team, the turf debate. The 50-50 guys who may or may not be playing this weekend, and if we should rest them. The trade deadline, should we go all out like the Rams did last year? And the QB debate, and we both share some similar ideas on that, but we can talk about some different things that contributed to those ideas. But let's get into the turf debate now, Ted, and I'll kick it off by saying, so down here in Australia, obviously we don't have the colds and the extremes that you guys do over there, especially on the East Coast, I'm guessing. So we would never ever play on turf down here, and the fact that you guys play on it over there in regard to its propensity for people to get injured just really, really shocks me. Tell me what you think, and and I'd love to know eventually what are they actually playing on. But anyway, the turf debate. Let's kick it off with that.
Sure, yeah. So you may have seen me tweet, ban turf. Turf is the devil. I have nothing good to say about it. It's caused a lot of our injuries. We saw it in 2020, week 2 at the Jets.
Yeah.
Obviously, this last week at Carolina Panthers. Even the Rams, SoFi Stadium, which is supposedly a beautiful stadium. I haven't been there yet myself. To Levi's South, I should say. But even like OBJ's injury during the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
was clearly caused by turf. So you asked what it is. It's ultimately it's concrete with a layer of rubber on top of it, and then there's sort of like a carpet like material made of kind of plasticky grass. I guess, gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but grass leaves, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And then there's rubber pellets that they sprinkle inside of that to give it a better feel. It also to allow you to see when a toe drags across it, the rubber pellets kick up.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it's very hard and unforgiving, which is like why we're seeing this week, like Aaron Banks has like a knee issue. Robbie Gould's knee bruise, I'm pretty sure it came because of falling onto that hard surface.
Yeah.
It's probably how Jimmy Ward broke his hand as well. There's a lot of injuries that come from it. But another big problem with it is it can tend to be sort of sticky and not give. So a player plants his foot in grass and he gets hit in the leg by a defender, an offensive player, with the ball typically, and not exclusively that, but that's the most typical situation. An offensive player puts his foot into the ground and somebody hits their leg. Well, usually the cleats and the ground and the grass give a little bit, and the knee and the ankle give a little bit, and everything. It's a kind of a system. Everything gives, and it prevents a lot of injuries that way. With turf, a lot of times what happens is they put their foot into that turf and it sticks, and there's zero give with the foot. And so then the only things that are able to give are the ankle or the knee. And so that's where you see a lot of ankle injuries and knee injuries, MCLs, ACLs, things like that, especially ACLs, like we saw
Mm,
with uh, Emmanuel Mosley
yeah,
at the Panthers. So, it's there are some places where it's, I won't say impossible to grow grass, but extremely difficult to grow grass. And that would be, like you said, places like maybe Buffalo, New York, where there's extreme weather conditions, being on the east end of Lake, is it Erie? Whichever lake it is, Superior.
yeah,
And they get a lake effect where humidity comes off across the lake and it creates rain and ice and fog and snow and sleet. And it would be very difficult to go grass there in the wintertime. Also, some of these indoor stadiums, like we're playing in this weekend in Atlanta, is a fully indoor stadium. New Orleans, there are several like that. However, some of the newer indoor stadiums, they figured it out where they can roll the grass out during the week so that it grows out in the sunshine, and then they roll it in for the game. So obviously, that's like Arizona has that, and same with Allegiant Stadium for the Raiders. The Cardinals and the Raiders both have stadiums like that in Vegas and Phoenix or Glendale, to be specific. And you do notice that those areas are in the Southwest where they're getting a lot of sun in the wintertime. So
yeah.
I don't know how feasible that is, where the cutoff line is for that, but certainly there are other places where that could work. So then the question is, don't why doesn't the NFL mandate grass everywhere where it's feasible, or at least easily feasible? And part of it, I think, just comes down to NFL owners are big time big shots in general, right? They're
Mm,
multi-billionaires in general. These are not people that are used to being told what to do. Um, and you got Roger Goodell, who is the head of the commissioner, but his job isn't really to police them so much as just to figure out what they want done and get it done. So he's more of a tool of the owners than any kind of a policeman of the owners, as far as I see it. Uh, so there's that reason. There's a cost issue. Grass is a little bit more expensive than turf, just as far as maintenance and upkeep. Um, but I think the bigger cost comes from an opportunity cost, which is how many events can you house in that stadium in between football events, like concerts, or there's like monster truck rallies, or all different kinds of multi uses for these massive arenas, stadiums. And so they miss out on a lot of revenue on other, if you have too many of those events on a natural grass, you're going to kill the grass or
mm,
destroy it and make it more dangerous than the turf you're trying to avoid. If
yeah.
there's all kinds of uneven turf, that can be very dangerous too. So those are some of my thoughts on turf, what it is and why it's used. And then I don't know if you saw, but George Kittle had a really interesting comment on it where he said, they are asking him after the Carolina game because of all the injuries, like, is
Mm,
the turf in Carolina bad? And he said, it's fine for turf, but turf isn't
mm,
grass, and grass, he basically, something I've said, which is, football is meant to be played on grass.
yeah.
And he said, if we have to play on turf, which, in some situations it's a necessity, why not make it uniform and have the same turf everywhere so that we can at least get used to it? The right shoes to wear. You get used to playing on it a little bit better than having every single turf at every single stadium be a different manufacturer, different type, and then therefore, there's no uniformity. You can't get used to it. So I thought that was a good.
Well, that would be sort of the lesser of the two evils, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I cannot fathom because it has to be a false economy, right? In terms of the injuries that it causes, and then people's interest when those players aren't playing, and I guess, sadness, for want of a better term, or uproar that happens when people keep on getting injured. And when I look at places like Green Bay that play on grass, then I don't think any of these other places do have an excuse. And I think Roger Goodall, or Goodell, if that's the way you pronounce it, needs to be the true leader of the NFL and say, look, guy, or even have some sort of not tax break or some sort of funding for them. Say, okay, well, look, if you're not going to do it, you don't want to do it. Here's some, here's some funding for you to because obviously you're going to need some staff. You're going to need, a head groundskeeper and a couple of groundsmen and stuff, because that's how we do it here. The thing too is that you mentioned, Ted, is the other lost opportunity costs that in terms of concerts and monster trucks and stuff like that. We do have that down here, and I worked at a stadium. It's called Bankway. What's it called? Combank Stadium now. We name like you guys. The Bank of America Stadium. Combank's one of our big banks down here, and they house a lot of football games. But they also have concerts there, and what they do is they lay down. Sometimes they'll peel back the turf and then put down other materials, and then plus some plastic or something like that, or they'll just place the plastic over the over the turf. Granted, it's not during football season.
Yeah,
So
that's the key.
that's the key, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
half of the year, they're going to lose those opportunities to have the concerts and motocross and stuff like that. So look, like, from an economies of scale type thing, well, not on economies of scale, but from for these owners to make some money back, I get it. But again, if I look at both sides of the equation in terms of the players getting injured, the uproar that it causes, and the NFL not being an organization that is bereft of money, or that has, it's a huge money making machine. There has to be some way to either get the uniformed turf or just go all to grass, because I think that as I said, it would be sacrilegious to if any NRL team down here, it's called the National Rugby League, said we're going to play on turf, people wouldn't turn up. They would riot in the streets. So,
I think that's ultimately what has to happen, is people have to stop buying tickets and stop turning on their TVs, because as long as the owners are getting their revenue streams through, whether it's jersey sales or ticket box office, but obviously the big one is TV, until people change the channel, they're not going to have a lot of motivation to change anything,
that's
sadly.
right.
Because revenue just keeps going up and up and up. I mean, here in the States, NFL is king. Like, there's no other program. There used to be others that would dip in there here and there towards the tail end of the least watched of the most, the back end of the most watched NFL games, and now it's just like no other sport, no other anything, Oscars, nothing challenges NFL. It's just the king. So
So just to give you an indication of how small our economy is down here, so the highest paid player in the NRL would be $1.4 million a year.
wow.
And so when I have friends, oh, how do you watch NFL and all that sort of stuff? And I said, look, it's the most violent sport in the world. It's the most entertaining sport in the world. and it is just put together so well. The broadcast, the entertainment, it's just it's a winner for me. But anyway, with that and talking about injuries, etc. There are some players that are on the 50-50, I guess, spectrum in terms of. So I don't know if have you seen the practice report this morning?
And this afternoon, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. Does this look familiar to you? So we've got didn't participate. The big ones: Armstead, Bosa, Ebakam, Gould on Wednesday. It's Thursday there, but then so on Thursday today it was Armstead, Bosa, Kinlaw, and Mosley, obviously, Jimmy Ward and Williams. Limited Banks, Danny Gray, Tyler Croft. That was on Wednesday, and then Banks again a limited, Ebakam, Tyler Croft, whereas more. But then full today was TDP, Gould back, Danny Gray's back, Demo Lenore's back, Jeffrey Wilson. Jeffrey Wilson? Shoulder? Is that
Yeah.
JWG?
No, yeah. It was not really talked about, but he dinged up his shoulder there in Carolina. So,
Oh my God.
yeah, I don't think it'll keep him from playing, but it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
So without those guys, I'll just remove that from the stream. So there is. So Shanahan did say in his press conference yesterday. I know he didn't talk this morning. Was there any? I haven't caught the press conferences this morning. Was there any talk of Bosa playing this weekend?
They haven't ruled him out, but it just seems very unlikely to me, especially given that it's turf, and that's how
Yeah.
he heard it was on turf at Carolina. I think the fact that Ebicom was back at practice today helps make it easier. I think if you've got Bosa and Ebicam out, it makes it a lot tougher decision to sit Bosa. But you got Ebicam, you got Omenahu, we got Drake
Yeah.
Jackson, we got Hyder. Those are four pretty good defensive ends to have a good rotation still. So yeah, and then Eric Armstead, I think, has been pretty much ruled out, if not officially. They said like very unlikely that he'll play. They haven't said that about Kinlaw, but that's my feeling is very unlikely that Kinlaw will play. And then Ty Davis Price is cleared to play, but unless that shoulder of Jeff Wilson is worse than I think it is, or it seems like people think it is, I think it'll be Wilson number one, Tevin Coleman number two, and TDP would be three, but I just don't think we'll see much of him.
No.
Just like we didn't see much of Jordan Mason, right?
No, that's right.
I think I think as much as possible, Kyle is always going to try to shield his rookies and let them, as much as he can, let them have a redshirt rookie season to kind of get used to things and get used to the NFL before throwing them into the fire.
Yeah.
And then Banks, that's a big one.
Yeah, Banks, right? He's been playing well.
Really well. Really well. Maybe our best offensive lineman since Trent Williams has been out.
Yeah, I
McGlinchey's
agree.
been playing really well too, though. The scary thing there, I mean, we got Brunskill back, but I don't know that Brunskill has ever played left guard because, in fact, I would wager that he hasn't.
No, I don't think he has.
Because Lakin was such an Iron Man there, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
right.
so, and Burford, maybe he could. I don't know. I mean, we definitely have a good guard to put there. It's just I don't know how good either one of them is at left guard. They're both real solid at right guard. And then while we're talking about Burford and Brunskill, some people were wondering why we've been platooning Brunskill and Burford when Burford seems like the answer, moving forward for right guard. And I do believe that. I think he's going to be a really good to great one. And I just think it's that they want Brunskill to take over at center, and it's a good way to get him up to game speed without affecting Brendel, and just a good way to get him going. That's what I think is happening, because in camp, Brendel and Brunskill switched off for a long time. And at a point, I was starting to wonder why don't they just make a decision? Because at some point, making the wrong decision is better than no decision on the offensive line. Like if they're both close, the guy who's slightly less, talented or skilled is going to end up being better by just getting more reps and continuity with the guys next to him, the guards and the tackles. So the fact that they kept that competition going as long as they did, despite the fact that Brunskill, I think, really struggled with snapping the ball, which is pretty elementary thing for a center. It's pretty much like if you can't snap the ball, you can't be a center. And so I think the thought was like Brunskill is a better blocker, and the snapping would improve since he's done not a ton of it, a little bit in 2020, and I don't think much before or since. So other than this camp. So, yeah, so Brunskill, I think they want him to move into center. I think that's the plan. And I think that's why they're doing that.
Speaking of Burford, we did a little bit of game tape on this channel against the Rams, and his blocking has been, especially in the run, there was quite a big. It was on the touchdown from Wilson against the Rams, and he blocked. And I can't remember that it wasn't Donald, but the scheme had him blocking right and then blocking left, and he took both these players out, which created this lane for Wilson. And I said to Jono, the guy that we were doing it with, that he's got that similar. And I'll ask you this question. Well, what do you think? I think he moves in the same way for a big man, very similarly to Trent Williams. He's got some agility to him as a bigger guy. What do you think?
I can see that for sure, and I think Trent Williams even might have said something similar to that. So yeah,
right.
I think the ceiling is very high for him. He seems to, it seems like he just took that job right in OTAs from Brunskill, and I would say it never looked back. But now they're switching back and forth, so I can't rule out the thought that they may be doing it just to have Brunskill play right guard. I just don't think that's the case. I think that Burford will continue to improve, and I think Brunskill will end up at center sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So we both agree. Look, rest Bosa for sure.
Yep.
There's no if he's gone, then he's got more sacks than a lot of teams in the NFL, right?
Yep, 6 sacks.
Yeah, 6, right?
Tied for the lead with several guys now. Micah Parsons caught him, and so did Max Crosby, and Hightower was right around there too last time I saw him.
Yeah, Micah Parsons, he's a bloody unbelievable.
He is.
But yeah, it'd be interesting. The shoulder with JWJ really surprises me. It's appeared. I didn't even know he had it, because I watched a press conference with them yesterday and nothing came about it. And obviously haven't looked at this. So, what are they saying? It's some sort of AC, or is it a bruising, a stinger? What, do you know anything about it?
I don't. I just remember hearing whispers about it during the week. Seen some tweets about it or some reports. But nothing that seemed to be raising alarm bells.
Because the run game on the other side, just quickly jumping to the Falcons this game, they have got a brilliant running attack. You probably know this. They're over there 5 games. Me and Jono were talking about this, and we did the math. 5.1 yards, or even I think it was 4.99 or something per carry over the 5 games. Really strong, right? So we need Jeff to obviously to match that. But anyway, let's move on to the trade.
The one good thing I would say while we're talking about run games is Cordell Patterson is out for the Falcons.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and so he's their star running back. Now, I'm not saying that they'll be bad at running the ball all of a sudden, just not quite as good. Also, their run defense is not very good, so we should be able to run pretty well against them, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Just on the other thing was Kyle Pitts missed last week too. Is he back?
He's questionable.
Questionable.
Yeah, I haven't really looked at a Falcons injury report yet myself.
Yeah.
I was just
Okay.
looking at a depth chart when I
Yeah.
was writing my article last night.
Yeah. Nice one. Nice one. All right. So the November 1 trade deadline is coming up. And I've got a couple of ideas, but I'm going to hand it over to you to think to give me your thoughts on who you think we should go for.
Well, I mean, with Emmanuel Mosley tearing his ACL, I would love to get a cornerback. I mean,
Yep.
I really like Jason Verrett,
Yep.
and if he can play like 2020, he's every bit as good as Emmanuel Mosley at that level. However, you know, he's had I think 2 ACLs and an Achilles now,
That's
and he's
right.
31. Or,
Yeah.
at some point, it just he won't come back the same again.
No.
And so I'm not saying that's now. But the other thing is, even if he does come back and he's 2020 levels, you know, how much can we count on him lasting for? What do we got? I mean, we got so it's week 5, so we've got 12 more regular season games and hopefully 3 or 4 playoff games, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Um, so yeah, cornerback would be a big one for me. Yeah, a tackle I think is another
Yep.
one. It's McGlinchey's last season. He's been playing real well,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
if he hits the open market, I doubt we'll want to compete with offers we'll see for him or he'll see.
I hope not.
Plus, Trent Williams is out right now, and he should
Yeah.
come back and be fine. But it's same high ankle sprain he had last year, so until I hear he's had maybe like a trapeze surgery that I've seen some people get
Yeah.
to bind the fibula and tibia together to avoid
Mm.
those sprains. That'll be a concern for me moving forward. Just in his age, I think he's 33, 34.
Yeah.
So tackle would be another one for
Yeah.
me. I saw an interesting tweet today. They were talking about Commanders maybe being sellers. Certainly, that'll depend on the game tonight. But if the Bears can beat them, well, and one of their corners was already talking about trying to get out. It's either William, I think something Williams the third,
Right. Yeah.
and I don't think he's high enough level that we'd want to trade for him. But they do have, like Montez Sweat, who's a great defensive end.
Yeah.
They do have, is it Logan Thomas or Ian Thomas? I think it's Logan
Logan.
Thomas,
Yep.
the tight end. And, we see it a little bit with Tyler Croft being a dual threat tight end, but
Mm.
I would love somebody who's more like Kittle, you know.
Yeah.
And those would be my 3 biggest areas of need: corner, tackle, tight end. I think we're pretty good at running back.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty good at wide receiver. Although I would love to see us sign OBJ just to watch Rams Twitter burn,
Oh my God, they would
and that wouldn't
lose.
take any trade, draft
No.
capital to do.
No. Well, they haven't offered him anything, have they?
That's what he said.
Yeah.
The Rams said they made him an offer and they're going to make him a better offer, but ultimately, like, can they offer him being a contender? And right now, they can't. They can't even offer him a playoff team right now. So, and I'm not saying that they will miss the playoffs, like some people have said. If they keep on like this, certainly they will. But I
Mm.
would expect they'll make some big moves.
Mm.
Not to get too much into the Rams, but I think they have, a need. Left tackle would be a need for them, and defensive end
100%.
because uh, Leonard Floyd hasn't done anything, and then
No.
the other guy, I don't even know who it is. So,
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you his name.
mm-mm.
Well, and we didn't, we didn't get our heads together and talk about this before the show. So I'm with the Commanders, Deron Payne.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah,
defensive tackle.
yeah, defensive tackle. He's big
And,
boy, 6'3".
you got me there because that's a big need with Eric Armstead. Who knows when he'll be back, and Kinlaw. And I've been saying for a while, like, we're the number 1 defense, but we got to get those guys back quickly. So yeah, Deron Payne is a great one.
Yeah, and look, what's he? Just a couple of he's 17 sacks, 42 QB hits, 5 seasons, missed 1 game.
Yeah, that's what we need, Ironman for sure.
We need Ironman, right? With the way that we play. And then the other one on the offensive side, he's played. Well, there's 2 guys from the Pats that and it's so it's Isaiah Wynn. He can play for McFloppy or McGlinchey. He was a first round pick from Georgia in 2018, so they had an opinion of him. And then cornerback, yeah, look, there's another Stephen Gilmore, right? Why wouldn't he be someone that we could take? Because I agree with you on Jason Verrett. We don't know what he's going to be like when he comes back. Is he going to have the same pace? I've got a big opinion of him only because of 2020, and I think that I haven't heard any. Usually sometimes when someone hasn't come back as good as they can, there are some whispers, and I haven't heard any whispers. So, yeah, that's kind of because and McGlinchey really he's been a bugbear of mine just I guess because of a topic we'll get to a little bit later. Well, it's our next topic actually, the QB stuff. It's just he hasn't been the teammate that I thought he could be, and just the way that he whiffs on his offensive blocking has just been found wanting on numerous occasions. He's great in the run, but Jimmy, not being the most confident thrower in the world and gets those tap dancing shoes on when the pressure gets too much, he doesn't allow Jimmy to have that time. So I think Isaiah Wynn would be a nice replacement for him. What do you think of those guys?
Yeah. I mean, I saw Isaiah Wynn even before the season started. Maybe it might be a tradable asset for them, and I was banging the drum for him back then.
Yeah, right.
I was basically saying, now here's where I was wrong, because I was saying, oh, signing Jimmy G, that $13.99 million would go a long way towards paying a tackle like Isaiah Wynn. Clearly, Jimmy, he's not a good or even mediocre option, but he's our best option. So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't want Purdy, that's for sure. So, and then I had a question for you.
Yep.
When we were talking about, corners and stuff like that. Like, it doesn't seem like Verrett's ready to come back, and I think the same type thing. Like, we wouldn't want his first game back to be on turf either. So who do you see as our starting corner opposite Mooney Ward?
Well, is it going to be Gibson?
Well, Gibson is the free safety, and he'll
Sorry.
play with Hufanga. So it'll be like Ambry or Womack, or they might slide Lenore out.
Womack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because he was impressive in the preseason.
Very.
He hasn't been as strong when I guess the real ball start, the bullets start flying. But
I think he was mostly run fit. I think he maybe wasn't as good a tackler as Lenore. I think that's what it was.
Well, Demo has been good.
Other than the getting burned a lot in the Panthers.
Yeah, that's right. Like, he made that nice sack.
Yeah.
That in that game, it was when he sacked Stafford.
Yeah.
So I think if they did I think D'Amico Ryans is a phenomenal coach. So if they did the rotation between Demo and Womack based on some of the him sort of having some insights into what the offense is going to do, he's going to have a plan for that. So I think those two. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm hoping for Womack.
Yeah, right.
Because he played boundary some at Toledo and some in the preseason, offseason for us. And either put Womack at nickel and slide Lenore out to the boundary.
Yeah.
Or ideally, I think you just put Womack on the boundary, though, where you're minimizing the change. Keep Lenore where he's been playing well. He did get burned a few times by DJ Moore in Carolina, but DJ Moore is a sneaky good receiver. I don't know if you know this, but he is the only receiver ever to have back-to-back 1,200 plus receiving yard seasons.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so he maybe doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, but where he got Lenore in the middle of the field, he's very, very good.
Mm,
So
mm,
I don't feel like that's really indicative of Lenore having a weakness, more as DJ Moore having a strength, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's good. That's a good insight, actually. Look, we look at their receivers, the Falcons receivers. Kyle Pitts is questionable. Um,
I think he'll play.
yeah, you probably will, won't he?
Mhm. If you're questionable on Wednesday, then you're probably going to play. I don't know. The
Yeah,
Niners are the only team I know where they say questionable and it couldn't really mean doubtful. But
yeah,
most other teams, I feel like if they're questionable, I don't know, I guess it'll be interesting to watch the practice reports and see if he's got full participation or limited, moving
yeah,
forward in the week. But I think Kyle Pitts will play.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
And then they have Drake London, the rookie
yeah, I
from
love like what a name,
yeah, from from USC. He's been doing really
USC.
well. Um, and that's about all I know
Yeah,
about their offense, other than Cordell Patterson, who's out.
yeah,
I know they have a pretty good offensive line for run blocking, obviously. To be,
mm,
you said they're real good. They're number 3 in rushing yards,
yeah,
and I think I saw somewhere number 2 DVOA, which means per the run defenses they faced, maybe they're even better than that sounds a little bit.
mm, mm,
And then I saw conflicting stuff about their pass blocking. I saw somebody post today that their offensive line was like 31st in pass blocking, which seems really low considering that their DVOA for passing is 18th. So right
mm,
around average as a passing
mm.
game. So they're like number 2 run game, number 18 passing game. Overall, their offense rates 10th. Um,
So that's
Pretty
pretty
good.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, especially against a banged up defense.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Before we leave,
there's
sorry,
some
you go.
concerns. I
Yeah,
mean, I still think the Niners will win, but ultimately, I try not to do too much like you know uh, score predictions until I like to wait till an hour before kickoff once I've
mm,
seen both inactive lists and I know exactly who's playing.
yeah,
Because usually there's a couple key players that I think will make a few points. Even though typically for betting, only QBs sway the points by
yeah,
one or two. Like for me, the key players do that too right before
yeah.
kickoff, in my
Are you
assessment.
are you a betting man? Do you like having a bet on the NFL?
I am not a betting man at all, especially not on my team. Like if I was going to bet, I would do it on some other team that I don't care about or I'm not
Yeah,
emotionally because I feel like emotions, two reasons. One, I feel like emotions cloud objectivity, but
yeah,
also like I just feel like I'm a huge jinx anytime I ever bet on us, we
yeah,
lose. So I just cured myself of that by not doing that
yeah.
anymore.
It seems to be just before we move on to because we're going to talk about our quarterback situation next. This game has a lot more importance than I think. Well, I think everyone knows it's important because we come back 4-2, or we come back 4-3, uh, and then we've got the Chiefs, and then we've got the Rams, and then it's not really after the Rams. Who have we got after the Rams? We've
We have a
got
bye week 9, then the
right,
Chargers,
yeah,
and the Saints, or
yeah,
Chargers, Cards, Saints, Bucks.
yeah. So, and the thing, and if this team is going to be as good as some people are talking about, a lot of the press was, this is a Super Bowl ready team, and obviously feeds into the whole quarterback situation as well. This is a game that has to be won, and has to be won. That they did the job against Carolina, they did the job well, and I'm hopeful that they'll win, and I think the only thing that can stop him is our man Jimmy G. He's the only thing that will that will stop us from getting the win. What is that? How you see it?
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, Jimmy G has been playing well, but he's been playing against heavily uh, injured defenses. The Rams were missing their cornerbacks 2 and 3, and the Panthers were missing both safeties, their defensive end number 2, and one of their linebackers, Shaq Thompson. But one of the biggest things was they lost J.C. Horn, their star cornerback,
That's right.
missed the second half, and that's when we started to do well, oddly enough, or even better. We did pretty well in the first half, but definitely better in the second half. And and Jimmy's thrown some highly interceptable balls that have just been dropped. So, if the defenders hold on, we're talking a whole different story. I think they will at some point. I think we'll see more pressure in Jimmy's face. I think we'll see more pressure on the scoreboard from these better teams, both of which are not, good things for Jimmy G. I think injuries are a big thing, and I think missing Kinlaw and Eric Armstead may start to show up in the middle of the defense. We started to see the Panthers run up the middle better than any team has so far on us this season. Maybe the Bears might have, but that was in the rain and first week, so I don't really count that.
No.
So I wouldn't be too surprised to see the Falcons run the ball up the middle fairly well versus us. But at this point, I don't think it's enough for them to beat us.
No, I don't think they've got the firepower. I see it being a lot closer than last week, but yeah, I think it comes down to when Jimmy throws an interceptable ball, which there is no. If there was a bet that said, "Will Jimmy throw a ball that is interceptable?" that you wouldn't get on because it would be too short of a price.
Right, 1-to-1.
Exactly, it would be $1.10 or whatever. That's how we say it down here. But yeah, he's going to throw one soon, and that's inevitable. But yeah, look, I think,
and they do have a great cornerback. AJ Terrell is an outstanding cornerback.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
and they have Grady Jarrett, who's a monster in the middle, which has in the past given us fits. Now with our two strong guards, it seems like that's not as much of a problem. But this will be a big test for Burford and Brendel and Banks for sure, assuming that Banks can play.
And the one thing I thought about too last week and I don't think Debo is the greatest wide receiver at getting separated, and he doesn't. He was losing that battle against J.C. Horn.
Absolutely.
Big time.
Absolutely. And then he had some drops because J.C. Horn was on him, and he just, the difference was kind of night and day between the first half and second half, the way our offense was able to move the ball.
All right. Well, let's go back to our future QB and what I wanted to chat to you about is something that because I from the beginning have been a very big supporter of Trey Lance. Obviously, the Niners Twitter has been a bit of a dumpster fire in terms of the two camps. I'm not a hater of Jimmy G. I think that he's a guy that, from a press conference point of view, I'm all the way in Sydney, Australia, and I see the way that he answers questions and I see the way that he reacts. He seems to be a guy that is taking a lot of this in his stride. I don't know what he says behind closed doors, but you may have a better insight than that to me. But the thing that really, the warning went, so going all the way back to when we traded for him, and it seemed that even in the first two games when he had packages, when Kyle had packages for him, that things he was going to get, because he was true to his word. He said, yeah, there's going to be packages for Trey and stuff like that, because, reporters were asking the right questions in terms of, he's a guy that hasn't played a lot of football. And, I'm not saying things here that that people haven't heard 1,000 times, but when Kyle, the first question I have for you is in regard to this is, did you buy Kyle's line when he stopped the packages for Trey that he was losing his rhythm in his play calling?
There's probably some truth to that. I think there's also some truth to there was pressure from the locker room. Specifically the Jimmy G contingent, folks like Mike McGlinchey, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk. I think you can lump Deebo Samuel into that group as well too. And I'm sure there's more, but those are some of the big ones where I think they told Kyle that they didn't think it was fair to Jimmy G, where Jimmy drives them down the field and then he plops Trey in to get all the glory of the touchdown, like what happened in Detroit. Now not in Green Bay, but versus Green Bay at Levi's, it was a little bit different, where Jimmy drove down the field. Then he had 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes on the goal line. They brought in Trey for strike 4, and luckily he got it, or else we did lose the game, but
Yeah,
but it probably isn't. We probably never would have tied or taken the lead in the
got
second
that
half like
close.
we did. Yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, I think some of it is rhythm, and it's not just for Kyle, but rhythm of the players. There's different blocking. There's different play calls. Obviously Trey runs more plays out of the pistol, and more play action, and Jimmy runs more shotgun, and so I think both can be true.
Tell me that, and this is a little bit of my knowledge gap for me. What's the difference between shotgun and pistol? I thought they were both the same.
Yeah, so shotgun, the quarterback is away from the line of scrimmage, and it has to do with the positioning of the running backs. I'm
Uh,
pretty sure the running backs are behind you in shotgun or to your side, or maybe it's pistol. The pistol is a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. The quarterback is a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage, and I believe the running back is actually still behind him. So he's
yeah,
not under center.
yeah,
He's standing up and he's getting a shotgun snap, but
yeah,
it's closer.
yeah,
So that's why. And then shotgun is deeper. That's it's a bigger
yeah,
gun, a deeper
yeah,
drop
yeah,
before not that he's actually dropping, but he's
yeah,
taking the drop before he takes the snap.
yeah,
And then the alignment of the running backs is a little bit different as well too.
yeah. Okay, cool, cool. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
So
So
so so the RPO, the run pass option, and the
yeah,
zone read run a lot out of the pistol. And
yeah,
so that's
right.
why, and that's where you'll see Trey Lance more than Jimmy G.
Yeah,
Although Jimmy he has run some with varying effectiveness, including he had to run some against the Seahawks because that whole game plan was planned for Trey
yeah,
Lance prior to
yeah,
his injury. So
yeah. Um, and then, so just sort of for us, we had the game against Arizona, which a lot of us thought that, again, you're running him too much. There's no trust. Um, he did have that injured finger, we found out, and then he played against the Texans, where I thought, that he played quite well. It was a game that we had to win. A lot of pressure for, what was he then, 20, 21?
he was still 21 then, yes.
Still 21. Uh, and then we get to this off season, and Jimmy says goodbye, and everyone, there was a guy on Twitter. I can't think. I'm trying to think. Whatever it takes. That Daniel Kelly guy. He's gone away now. I haven't seen him. He's gone back under his rock. But I tried to bet him. I said to him, "Look, I'll give you 10-1, and you can have as much as you want on if Jimmy G is going to be on this team." Yeah, I know. And he didn't take it.
Thank
Um,
goodness.
I know, but the talking heads, and how much do you think, like, you have the Florio, and I know, like, Florio he's kind of a Niners hater. I get the impression. Peter King, let, let me ask you this. I saw Peter King interview Trey, right? Did you see that interview?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. And I thought Trey handled him with aplomb, because he was trying to get Peter King was doing his job and trying to get, some reaction out of him, and Trey gave him nothing, which I thought was beautiful. And after that, I thought that Peter King became a little bit more of, he's not ready, he's not ready. What did you think there was anything in that interaction, and Peter King being a little bit more against Trey after that?
It could be, and I think a lot of those guys, a lot of it really stems all the way back to pre-draft. when a lot of
Yeah.
them said it's going to be Mac Jones at number
Yeah.
3, and then they were wrong, and so then they just kept trying to double down and say, well, we were wrong about the draft pick, but Kyle was wrong to draft him, so we were actually right.
Yeah.
That should have been Mac Jones, and I still don't believe that. I didn't want Mac then. I don't want him now. And but yeah, it's very possible that Peter King thought that he could sort of dominate the interview, and Trey basically said, "I don't care what you think or say. All I care about is what the guys in the locker room say." And that might have ruffled his feathers a little bit. Somebody with so many years of experience, so many followers, such a high-ranking, or at least previously high-ranking football person. I don't know where he stands these days, but
Mm.
um, yeah, it's certainly possible. I could see that he could turn against Trey for that. I mean, Colin Cowherd, I think, turned
Oh,
against Trey for dumping his daughter,
that's
right?
right.
So, and there's lots of reasons people have. There's the picking of Mac Jones. Um, there's you know, sad to say in this day and age, but there's still a racial component too. That there's a stigma against black quarterbacks that plays out, and being a big Trey Lance fan and arguing for his behalf. I certainly ran into it on Twitter some, where there were people where there's just no logical reason for what they're saying, makes no sense for on the field reason. Then there's really only one other reason why somebody would be against him. So you
I,
hate to see it, but it's still out there.
yeah, that look, and look, we've had our problems in this country too with our indigenous population, and probably a far worse record um, in terms of the way that what happened when the English got to our country, right? But um, it just again it boggles me my mind. Flabbergasted that would happen still in this day and age, um, and it's really saddens me that he would have to face this. And so was there? So I guess there wasn't any flagrant type examples that you weren't sent any DMs or anything about it, were you? Or
No, not me personally. It's more like you see people saying things about various quarterbacks and lumping certain quarterbacks in one group together and other quarterbacks in another group together. And then also, if you go through their tweets and see things they say politically, where it gives you hints about where they lie
yeah,
about things like
yeah,
that. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, and then so if we looking forward, um, if we win the Super Bowl with Jimmy, what's going to happen next year?
that's a great question, and people are talking about it. Some of the Jimmy fans are like, quit complaining, Ted, and just enjoy a deep playoff run. And
Mm,
and I'm sort of like, well, hey, let's beat a playoff team first, right? And
yeah,
then let's make the playoffs, and then we'll see how
yeah,
we do. And but yeah, like, say we stay healthy, and Jimmy, let's say he actually really has improved, right? And he really is a 5 TD to 1 interception quarterback, and he carries us to a Super Bowl win. Well, then yeah, you've got a whole different discussion. Um, you know, I think it maybe starts to become a harder decision. Do I think that's likely? I think it's I said I'm not much of a gambler, but I would start buying lotto tickets before I would think that
mm,
would pay off
mm,
like that. So the more likely scenario is that our offense, I mean our defense and our run game and our elite weapons carry Jimmy G to a Super Bowl victory, despite his limitations.
mm,
And in that situation, yeah, I think you still let him go next year. You let Trey Lance take over. Um, I wouldn't be opposed to getting another veteran Jimmy G type quarterback into the room, because Trey Lance, let's be honest, Trey Lance may never be the Trey Lance we just saw this season again.
mm,
That ankle, he could have complications.
mm,
Um, he could heal 100% physically, and he could be mentally scarred and never be the same.
Mm,
upstairs.
mm,
He could be the same, and it could take a long time. It may take more than one season to get back, and
mm,
especially when 2020 was only one game with COVID.
mm,
2021 was only 2.5 games being redshirted. Now
mm,
2022 only 1.25 games due to injury. That's
mm,
3 years, and what do we got? We got let's see, 5 games, less than 5 games in 3 years. Where it's meaningful competition. You could probably lump
mm,
some preseason games in there a little bit, but let's say five
yeah.
real games. Um, so you start to get to a point where it's just kind of been too long, and I don't know if he'll ever get back. I don't think that's the case for any of that. I think his
Mm,
ankle will heal properly. I think he will get back. I don't think he'll be mentally scarred. I do think he'll be our um, franchise quarterback moving forward for many years to come. I just would like to see Kyle run him a little bit less. In general, I'd like to see less design runs, less options, especially ones where he's designed to run up the middle or the option is likely to have him run up the middle. I think he has to run some to keep defenses accounting for him, to keep them
mm,
honest, to keep them playing
mm,
11 on 11, because
mm,
clearly there's a strength in our run game that comes from that, where one defender can't really be 100% on the running back
mm.
because they have to account for him, and just
That's
causes
right.
a little bit of a delay, and that's enough for the running back to be by or
Mm,
outside of them. So um, I do think Trey will be back, but I don't think that we should count on it as like 100% that it'll happen in 2023.
mm,
So whether it's Jim, I think Jimmy G will price himself out if we win the Super Bowl with him.
mm,
But I could see like maybe an Andy Dalton or Matt Ryan, or I don't know who else will be available then. I would love somebody like a Tyler Huntley from the Ravens, who's more like Trey Lance, who's more mobile, so that you don't have this like, um, you know, problem with Kyle not having continuity in his play calling between his starter and his backup QB. You can run the same plays for everybody in practice and in games. So, I'm not opposed to that either.
yeah. I thought I was hoping this year they were going to get someone like Tyrod Taylor,
Mhm.
or someone that replicated or had a very similar playing style to Trey, because it just made common sense to me, And for me this year, I was willing to put up with the lumps. I still think we would have made the playoffs with him and maybe bounced out in the first round, and I was willing to not even go to the playoffs this year with Trey, because there has to be because you look at Lawrence, right, and you look at Fields, and Lawrence is what's he Stafford's throwing a lot of intercepts. Kyle hates turning over the ball, right? It's his pet hate, and I think that any QB and it showed to me that he did there was a lack of trust in him throwing the ball, and thus he ran him more than he should have. And I think it contributed to the injury, And a lot of people say, you can't blame Kyle, but he's the one calling the plays. He's the one who didn't trust in his quarterback, and so you can argue all day the chicken or the egg, and my argument is that it was the egg, which means it's the brainchild of the brain workings of Kyle put him in that position. Um, Speaking of that, you had I saw a tweet. I was looking through your tweets to just do some research for today. You had an interesting tweet about Emmanuel Mosley. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll preface it by saying, I'm with you. Like I think I already kind of said it about running Trey differently, still running him, but
Mm,
not as much. And I think we can critique Kyle Shanahan and still be Shanahan fans, right? I mean,
that's right.
I'm not saying I want Kyle fired or get him gone or anything like that. Just here and there, I disagree with some things that have happened. With Emmanuel Mosley, my question is, you've got a 15-point lead. It's 30-15. I think 6 minutes and change. I think it was, not even 6.5 minutes left in the game. And what point do you start pulling starters out of the game? Obviously, Bosa was already out. But like to me, I think it's a time to pull guys like Fred Hufanga, Mooney Ward, and Emmanuel Mosley. Those are some of our key players on that defense. And let the younger guys get some run and protect those players from something like that happens. I'm not gonna sit here and say that he should have, but it was this thought was starting to cross my mind at that point in the game, like, oh, maybe this would be a good time to pull starters. So to be fair, like I didn't tweet it out or anything like that. But uh, looking at it in hindsight, the question arises.
Mm.
So could and I tweeted, could Emmanuel Mosley have been avoided? When I was talking about that, it was talking about an article, playing on turf was really what I
Yeah.
meant. But
Yeah.
I thought if I tweeted it, people would also wonder if I meant, could it have been avoided by pulling him? And I like to pose that question. I mean,
Mm.
I'm not going to sit here and say that we should have pulled the starters, because we could have, and we could have lost the game.
Mm.
But it's a tricky thing, and I think when we're up a lot in games, especially against the Carolina Panthers, who had only scored one touchdown in 53 minutes and change,
Mm.
the chances of them scoring two with a 2-point conversion, at least one 2-point conversion in 6 minutes, just didn't seem that likely to me.
Yeah. I saw in the stats sheet that Brock Purdy was sent out to take a knee. Is that can't I didn't
I
did he?
believe so. I didn't even notice, to be honest with
Neither
you.
did I. So
Yeah.
I obviously look at the stat sheets and but that's the other thing, that why not give Purdy a series at the end of the game?
Yeah.
Instead, because all Jimmy was doing was handing off.
Right.
I'm sure Brock Purdy can do that.
Yeah, and you're risking Jimmy getting injured, because we know
That's
he has an
right.
injury history, and we obviously can't afford for him to go down. And if he does, then it's even better that we have Purdy, up and
Yeah,
running or ready
with a
to
little
go,
bit of experience.
for sure.
We're just running a little bit out of time. But the one thing I wanted to say was, if we do win the Super Bowl, then all these vets, where we wanted to win the Super Bowl, then they've won the Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
You just calm down, and can we just get the future in, please, and just play football for the guy? Like, yeah, this whole Super Bowl ready thing, and are we wasting it on Trey? I thought it was super disrespectful to him. And if we do win the Super Bowl with Jimmy, you're right, he'll be priced out. I cannot do another season with him. Oh, as I said, I don't not dislike the guy, but the biggest predictor of future behavior, Ted, is past behavior. And Jimmy is playing well at the moment, but we know that in the past, and this is not being a Jimmy hater, that he will start throwing interceptions and he will have a bad game, right? So
Absolutely.
it's just going to happen.
No, it's 100% true. And yeah, winning the Super Bowl would, I think, cause the locker room to calm down a little, and Kyle too. I think it would buy more job security for Kyle, where he'd be more willing to go with Trey. The thing that bugs me the most about the whole thing, though, is that I just don't agree that Jimmy gives us a better chance to win the Super Bowl this season. Like, maybe he's better than Lance was week one, but after had Lance, assuming he had stayed healthy and played the whole season and the playoff games to get there, I mean, I think Lance is going to be night and day better. But you know,
Yeah.
it's hard. The only thing I can point to prove that is, his offense racked up 143 yards against the Seahawks. And then Jimmy G came in and he averaged under 105 for the next three quarters. Also, last year they played the same opponent when Jimmy
Jimmy.
strained his calf, and
Yeah.
so Lance outscored him 14-6 and had better stats in that game too. So there's reason to believe that Lance is already better. in my opinion. And if not right this second or right, at the beginning of the season, that he certainly would have been after playing a full season to get to the playoffs. I think he
Yeah.
would have given us a much better chance to go far in the playoffs and ultimately to win the Super Bowl. But that's a conversation for 2023, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. He just going back to his maturity, and this has been discussed before, but he named when he played in that monsoon, he named every mistake, every one of them, and owned it. Whereas our current guy,
We need to do better.
yeah, we need
He
to do
says
better. That's tough.
he throws other people under the
Yeah.
bus. Yep.
Oh, it was kind of crazy. You know what? That happens in football. Ha 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 ha. Look, I don't want to be a Jimmy Bash, but we know his limitations, and yeah, look, I'm not afraid to stand on my my platform of being a Trey supporter, because I think it was definitely needed, and Kyle went with him for a reason.
Yeah, and I think Jimmy will fall back to earth, and if he doesn't, I'll be happy to apologize. Right? I mean,
Absolutely.
no problem with that.
Well, in week 2, Ted, on the channel, I was calling for Cole to be sacked. But again, I said that on one of our shows the other night. I said, look, I'm pragmatic and mature enough to say I was wrong. I was emotional, because I don't know what it is with this team, but it just makes me so emotional and erratic sometimes. But I can say now that that's not the case. He should not be sacked, and he does have, in terms of his scripting, some fantastic wrinkles. But anyway, look, that brings us to the end of our time, Ted, today. I hope that we get the chance to do it again. I've really enjoyed having a chat with a guy that's been faithful since 1976. I was born in 75, so I hope that doesn't make you feel too old. But
I'm just 5 years older. That's not that much.
yeah. Well, there you go. Well, look, I think we can beat the Falcons. I know that you do too. Anything else to add before we sign off?
No, just before too long here, I should be getting my YouTube channel going
Yeah.
soon. It'll be called Ted Talks Ball, and I'd
Yeah.
love to have you on as a guest. And we can chop it up some more.
Sounds good, Ted. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be it for today, and go Niners.